you're shopping ultimate performance side-by-sides, there are only two machines on your list. The 2024 Polaris RZR Pro R and the 2024 Can-Am Maverick R. That Pro R packs a massive 2-liter 4-cylinder engine pulled right from the road-going slingshot.
And Aaron, you literally just bought a brand new Civic Si with a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder, and that's a road-going sedan.
You're just going to come at me like that.
I am in fact.
That thing is big. Yes, it is bigger than the engine in my car. Anyway, it still gets all that power to the ground through a rubber belt CVT, which means it's kind of the logical evolution of the RZR bloodline.
I mean, it's bigger and badder in every direction, but it's still the RZR we know and love when you come right down to it. All that displacement means that thing packs 225 horsepower in a package that weighs less than 2,500 pounds. That's a good combo.
That's pretty spicy.
But the Mav R is different in every meaningful way. We're talking a 240 horsepower single liter triple. That's the most power you can get out of any mainstream side-by-side.
And that awesome engine is bolted to a delicious dual clutch 7-speed manual. You can shift it yourself. You can have it shift itself. There are no other 7-speed dual clutches available in the side-by-side market. But if you really want to, you can sit in there and flap your paddles. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the only other dual clutch is the Honda Talon, and that's a 6-speed, and that thing feels like drawing with crayon compared to this thing's Mona Lisa.
And somehow those things aren't the most radical part of the Maverick R. All you gotta do for that is look up front where the tall knuckle suspension lurks. Basically, that gives it a lower roll center, which is a fancy way of saying this thing's planted.
So which one do you buy? Do you buy the new clean sheet guy or the old school rig we know and love?
It's a tough choice, but we're back at Windrock Park in Oliver Springs, Tennessee to put some miles on these bad boys and try and figure out which one is right for you. And I think we're gonna start inside.
Yeah, let's go. All right. You look around in here, you're not gonna find anything groundbreaking. This looks like a minor evolution of the RZR architecture.
And the dashboard's a little different and the steering wheel's obviously new, but otherwise,
this is a RZR.
That's both good and bad. On the one hand, everything feels familiar, which means you do have this janky old Polaris shifter, and there are some plastics that don't line up and everything, but you've got a really nice new steering wheel that's got great functionality. You got stereo controls, you got suspension and drive mode controls on it. Like, they thought about this more than just saying, oh, let's make it prettier.
I can see where the familiarity is nice, right? You're not learning a new language, you know exactly how everything works in here.
Right, they've been doing this for 10 years in RZRs, and all they did was make it a little bit better for this one. That familiarity means that the star of the show, as always, is the brilliant ride command.
You're talking about a 7-inch touchscreen that you can use gloves with, handles an amazing stereo. This one's got a Rockford Fosgate with 2 tweeters up front, 4 speakers, 400 watt amp. You've got Bluetooth, you've got USB connectivity, and it's got an amazing navigation system. I know we have harped on this left, right, and center, but we're talking 1,000,000 miles of mapped trails. I can't remember the last time we were on a trail that this thing did not already have mapped.
I've been in the depths of the Gila National Forest in New Mexico, and it knew where I was. I mean, we're talking 6 hours from Phoenix into the middle of nothing, and Ride Command had me.
Yeah, and I can't overstate how nice it is to also have the peer-to-peer communication, right? So if you have somebody else who has a Ride Command system or somebody else who has the Ride Command Plus app, you can see where they are on your map. You can see how fast they're going, so you're not turning around and looking and waiting for folks to see if they're in trouble. And you can also communicate with them without cell service. Deeply, deeply useful.
Yes, and if you're leading a ride, they can see where you're going so they never miss a turn. Until somebody else comes up with something that matches the functionality of this system, we're going to keep saying how good it is.
And the Pro R gives you control over that system on the steering wheel, just like you'd get in a car. You've got, little thumb buttons that let you control the Ride Command system and also the suspension for this machine, which we'll get into later.
Right, and the last thing you want in a 225 horsepower, 2,500 pound side-by-side is to have to take your hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
But all that said, the rest of this interior doesn't really look up to snuff in a rig that's $44,999.
I'm sorry, how much?
$44,999, which is as good as $45,000.
Oh boy! You can buy a brand new Mercedes sedan for what this car costs. That's crazy.
That is wild.
And there are parts of this that just don't feel like it's worth the price tag, starting with these doors. They're largely perfunctory. Polaris says these things are full doors. They're very excited about it. They brag about it. But that they're full doors in name only. There's giant gaps. You're going to get dusty. You're going to get muddy. There's no weather stripping. There's just a single interior release. There's no exterior door handle. It doesn't feel like it's worth the price tag. These doors feel like something you'd find in a rig that costs $10,000 less. Yeah. Because they are.
On a brighter note, these seats and harnesses, they're really fantastic. They're 4-way adjustable for the front passengers. These harnesses are retractable, and in the back, One, you've got stadium seating so the backseat passengers can see out over the driver's head, which is great. You got someone who's got motion sickness, that'll help. Also, those seats are the same as they are up here. They're super comfortable. They're not adjustable. You do get 4-point harnesses, although they are fixed in the back.
And more importantly, there's room back there for full-size adults.
Yes.
We've been in a lot of 4-seat rigs where I could not comfortably fit back there.
Yeah.
I'm 5'11", $180, somewhere around there. And if I can't fit back there, most full-grown adults can't either.
Sucks to be on the trail eating your knees.
Yeah, it really does. How does the Mav R stack up?
I think we should get in there and check it out.
All right, let's check it out.
It feels, in a word, nicer in here.
And this feels like the next generation of side-by-side. Everything's just a little bit nicer. The touch points are nicer. You've got soft buttons down here that feel automotive grade. I know, they love to say that, but it's true.
And those nicer touch points start with the shifter, which feels like something you would actually get in a full-size production vehicle. And the paddles are metal, which just feels high quality.
And look at this touchscreen. It's massive, easily 10 inches. The graphics are way nicer than what's on the Pro R.
Unfortunately, all you get is smartphone-based navigation here, though, and again, it's not as good as Ride Command. You've got this beautiful screen that's kind of let down by the tech that's behind it.
Can-Am says that they're working on a solution to that, but working on ain't having it.
Yeah, right. We want to see it.
Unfortunately, that only highlights how bad the resolution is on the backup camera.
Yeah.
You've got this massive screen, you fire up the backup camera, it looks like security footage from a 7-Eleven in 1997.
Added to that, this is a $42,599 XRS model, and there is no stereo here. Speaking of security footage, there is no stereo here. That is a crime.
I cannot believe that.
Last thing before we get on the trail, we got to talk about how big these things are.
Yeah, let's check it out. All right, Aaron, that Pro R is nearly 14 feet long. So for comparison, a 4-door Jeep Wrangler Unlimited is 15 and a half.
Okay, so it's huge is what you're saying.
Yeah, she's massive. She's a school bus.
And while that thing's big and the Maverick R is shorter at a little less than 12 feet long, it's also 6.5 feet wide, which means it's 4 inches wider than the Wrangler you were talking about.
Holy crap. If you are adding one of these things to your fleet, you've really got to think about your trailer.
Our 22-foot car hauler can carry one or the other, but not both. And our ramp tech is long enough to carry the Can-Am, but it isn't wide enough. All that means that when we have to have both of these rigs in the same location, we're doing a lot of trips.
Enough jibber jabber. Let's get in these things to go.
Yeah, let's grab our helmets. Hey, Zach, you got your cardo?
Yeah, man. Right here. Ready to go.
Sweet.
All right, Aaron, can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear, bud.
Hey, bud, it's kind of rainy and muddy today. Do we need to be worried about these things?
No, we don't. They are IP67 water, dust, and mud proof.
Oh no, oh God, no. It's in my mouth.
Yeah, I've used other Cardo Pack Talks on motorcycle rides, and the thing I love about them is the dynamic mesh communication, right? So if I lose sight of you and drop the system, the second I get back in sight, it automatically picks me up. I don't have to pull you back up on my phone.
Oh, that is super cool.
Cardo was kind enough to sponsor this video, which is great. If you like these Pack Talk edges and want a set for yourself, head over to the Cardo site. You can use the code OCTANE for 10% off your first order, or you can click the link below.
Zach, you ready to drive side-by-sides?
Yeah, I think so. That thing looks good, but I gotta say, that thing looks like $1 million.
You know what else it does? It sounds so good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. Just in a parking lot, this thing is so good. Our Lord and Savior throttle response.
This thing?
That was cool. What you just did was cool. And it looked really cool.
Crawly boy time.
We've proven out here that the Can-Am Maverick R can crawly boy.
Oh my God, this thing.
I haven't looked at how quick we're going one time.
No, you don't want to.
Yeah, you gotta focus on what you are doing. They feel composed, but it's like also there's no incentive to look down.
No, there's not. Ah!
Oh. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
These things rip.
They're so good. I don't care how filthy I am. That's the takeaway. If you're just a guy like me, I'm not a particularly sharp tool in a car. This is the rig you want. You don't have to deal with turbo lag. It's very friendly and inviting. It's pretty forgiving, and it's fast. I mean, you step on the gas and it kicks you off up the trail like you were not ready for. Whereas this has got some turbo lag, and originally I was thinking that's the better machine if you spend your weekends doing track days or you have got any experience desert racing. That's the tool. But then I remembered something. When you were in this, you're a much better driver than I am. You're faster just about everywhere. But when you were in this and I was in the Maverick R, I had exactly no problem keeping up with you. We were getting after it, and I felt totally comfortable, totally confident in the Mav R. It turns out we were going pretty damn quick. And then when you got in the Mav R and actually took off, I was having a great time, but keeping up with you was just not on the cards. It's bumpy. There's a lot of mess out here today, but just the point is that's the faster machine. That's the sharper tool.
People are not going to want to hear this, right?
No.
Both of these machines are excellent.
Yes.
If somebody rolls up to the trailhead with either of these, you're getting a big hell yeah, brother, from me.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Really, really excellent machines. I think it comes down to how do you want that experience of speed to be delivered?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, we're not talking like, oh, Camaro and Mustang. We're talking like the difference between a Z06 versus a 911 GT3.
Yeah.
What is the flavor? This is more composed, a little bit more buttoned down. That's rowdy.
Yeah.
And like, for me, I like rowdy.
Yep.
I'm here for the blow-off valve. I'm here for that punch of turbo.
Yep.
I love seeing the suspension go. And that thing is always on your shoulder going, you can do that a little bit faster.
Yeah.
You thought about going a little bit faster?
There's more.
There's more. There's more. There are times, especially in the chunky stuff, we just came up Trail 9 here, where, you know, it's pretty rutted. I would not take my Land Cruiser up that.
No.
Where that felt like, well, you know, you're going to have to slow down because it's not quite as smooth. Whereas the CVT and that sucker smooths all that stuff out.
Yep.
You just don't have to worry about it.
No, you can go almost full boot through it. And that also brings us to the suspension, which I had it in Baja mode. Which means something. Think about the Baja Peninsula. It's a desert, it's rocky, and you're supposed to go fast. And so that's what this is for. That's what we were doing. It just completely erased any worry about what was in front of me on the trail.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't getting harsh bottom outs. You weren't getting any hard hits or jostling. And that's insane on what we just drove up.
The ceiling for the top tier of side-by-sides has gotten so high.
It is.
And the margins between the top players are so close.
Yes.
It genuinely comes down to what color do you like? Are you Polaris blue? Or are you Can-Am yellow?
I think we're both pretty much in agreement that we would pick the Maverick R, but our purposes are, I want a sharp tool to do sharp tool things. And boy, if I had 2 kids,
you're going to have a really good time in that
Yeah.
machine. It's also worth pointing out we were playing with the foldable, stowable rear seats in that thing. There's a lot of storage on the Pro R.
you can basically pop the back seats entirely out, and there's enough room for 2 coolers and a tent, a lot of stuff, in addition to the trunk in the back. So if you've got designs on camping or going way out into the forest, this is your girl.
I mean, it's a good thing you have that space because you're going to need to bring extra fuel.
Yeah, this is a... We started out at the bottom of the mountain at like 90% on the gauge, and we're down to 67, 68.
Whoa.
And we've come 10 miles.
I don't think we've burned 2 bars in that thing.
Yeah, which is interesting given the amount of boost that thing's pushing. 2 liters are thirsty, it turns out.
We're talking about price, right? I was saying these things are of value. And I know what that sounds like to say that, hey, this $43,000, this $45,000 machine is of value.
Show your work.
Okay, great. Pick a production car. You have a Subaru WRX, you have a Raptor, and you want it to keep pace with either of these machines on any of these trails, you will spend 6 figures, full stop. That is just what it takes.
Yeah.
You know, all these manufacturers are turning out these, you know, off-road performance vehicles. You've got TRD Pro, 4Runner, and Tacoma. You've got a Bison, you've got a Ranger Raptor, you've got a regular Raptor, you've got a TRX, whatever. Not going to cut it. And even if it could, buy an $80,000 TRX, you're not coming up here and you're not having the same experience that you're having here because you're sweating it the whole time.
Yeah, the airbags would go off if you tried to do that in a TRX.
100%.
I'm not kidding. And that brings us to the next point, that this is a leap forward for any vehicle.
This feels fast for any machine, production vehicle, race car, whatever. I feel like this production vehicle can keep pace with them. That feels fast for a side-by-side. And part of that is the experience. Got the 7-speed gearbox that feels like an honest-to-God solid performance machine. You're not worried about slipping your belt or any of that stuff. That is an exceptionally quick side-by-side.
But yes, you have that DNA of a side-by-side. The suspension, as good as the Dynamics DV is, just the chassis overall isn't as well thought out. And at what point does that start to matter? Well, that's where you get into the tough decision between the two machines, but that thing feels like it's taking the side-by-side industry to the next era.
Yeah.
This thing feels like the absolute peak of the previous era. Deciding between the two of them is still going to be tough, but they are different animals. I guess there's nothing to it but to get back down the hill, huh?
I think so. Which one you driving?
I mean, that one.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you found this helpful if you're trying to decide between a Pro R and a Maverick R. If you like what you saw, be sure to check us out on UTVDriver.com, where we're there 5 days a week with news, reviews, buyer's guides, and videos just like this.
And if you want even more nonsense from the UTV Driver crew, check out our social media 7 days a week. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and right here on YouTube. We'll see you there.